record. Start recording. This is that strange moment. Ah, there we go. That strange moment where you think, no, nobody's bothered to show up. And now there's loads. All of a sudden,
Beautiful.
they all came in. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. Wow, there's loads of you. Thank you for making the effort. I think we'll just wait a couple of seconds. We must have 20 or so at least, but by now. Was that process painless? You guys that have just come in, hopefully you got to see a screen, a blue screen, which was like a waiting page, and then oh, thank you. David says pretty painless. Good. Yes, says Rob. Thank you. Will this be recorded? Yes, indeed. It's going to be recorded, Patricia, and it's going to go straight up on the WP Builds website, plus the YouTube channel, and it will take me, give me a couple of hours. Is all I can say. So if you've got to go at some point, fair play. You won't get your questions answered by Adrian, who hopefully is lurking at the bottom of the screen there. There's Adrian. Before I hand over to Adrian, I'm just going to do a couple of bits of housekeeping really quick. Number one, all of the bits that you've written in chat have gone into the chat section. But if you notice right at the top of the chat box, there's a couple of options, one of which is Q&A. If you click on the Q&A, if you've got an actual question as opposed to just some random thing that you'd like to blurt out, then write it in the Q&A section and I get alerted to that, and then I could either interrupt Adrian or not. If I don't feel it's worth interrupting at that exact moment, then I'll just wait until the end, and we'll do it that way. But please ask loads of questions because you won't get this chance again, that's for sure. So that's it. That's all I've got to say. Without further ado, I'm going to say hello. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm doing excellent.
It's the afternoon, but you know,
that's the wonderful thing about time zones. So it's currently 10 a.m. for me. It's 3.
Yeah, 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Okay.
I was close. I was close.
So as you can see from the screen, we're here with Adrian Toby. Adrian is the founder of Groundhogg, a fairly new WordPress plugin which is designed to take things like the fee for Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign out of your wallet and return the money back to you, because Groundhogg is going to take all of that stuff off you. You may have had a play. The URL, I believe, is groundhogg.io. Have I got that right?
You do. It's www.groundhogg.io. The .com was taken. Don't know how.
Yeah, with double G as well. Yeah, and he's going to show us all about it. I might as well say the offer right up front. He's offering 25% off to people in the WP Builds community. There it is. If you just go to their website and enter WP Builds, all uppercase, you're going to get yourself 25% off, which is pretty generous. By the way, if for some reason this webinar platform dies on you, the audio goes, anything like that, because it's browser based, you can just click refresh. Maybe copy the URL into your clipboard before you do it, just in case something horrible happens. But we should be good. So, Adrian, do you want to share your screen?
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and do that. And as I do that, is it okay if I tell the audience a little bit about myself?
I very much like that, actually, because one of the things I always want to know when I talk to people like you is what's your background, what's your heritage, you know, how have you come to do this, and so on. Yeah, go for it. Please do.
So beautiful. So I see a few people actually that I'm very familiar with in the audience here, but if you're not familiar with me, my name is Adrian. I am the founder of this WordPress plugin, Groundhogg. I have been in the email marketing industry for the last about 6 years, working in not only Groundhogg, but working with a digital marketing agency in Toronto, Canada. Previously, in my previous life, I was an Infusionsoft certified partner. If you're familiar with Infusionsoft, it is a fairly costly digital marketing and email marketing platform for small SMB businesses. And we wanted to take everything that platforms like that and ActiveCampaign and HubSpot and similar products to that could, and bring it onto the WordPress platform and remove essentially the cost and the hassle of setting up those systems processes and connecting it to your website. So after about 5 years of being an Infusionsoft certified partner, I decided enough is enough, and we started building Groundhogg, which would essentially replace softwares like that in your business, both saving you time and a significant chunk of change if you're paying very, very large monthly fees to these businesses. I know HubSpot, for example, just for kind of their basic tier of the email marketing platform is $1,000 a month.
Oh,
If you can believe it. So that is, you could essentially, in some parts of the world anyway, hire an employee with that amount of money. So we're really looking to save the small and medium business that uses WordPress that chunk of change so that they can reinvest it into their business in more beneficial ways. A little bit other quick background. I went to the University of Toronto for computer science for 3 years until I dropped out. In order to actually pursue this career path of building plugins that help these businesses and help small businesses really save on time and money when implementing their sales and digital marketing. So that's enough about me. Let's jump into what everybody came here to learn about is how does it work? What does it do? How can it save you time? How can it save you money? And is it worth it? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the risk? Is it worth all of those things? So let's just jump into that.
Could you just, guys in the chat, could you just give me a yes if you can see his screen? I can. But there's very little point in carrying on. Yeah, tons of yeses. Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. So if you have questions at any point during the process that we're about to go through, just jump into the chat area, type it out. I think what Nathan's going to do is he's going to kind of take notes of the ones that need to be answered. If it's urgent, then he's just going to interrupt you. Otherwise, I'm going to take a pause about the end of kind of every section, and then we'll just kind of what's the word I'm looking? Push out all the answers all at once. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Beautiful. All right. So if you are already starting to use Groundhog, you're going to kind of recognize a few of the processes that we're about to go through. If you're here because you're totally new and you just want to find out what it's all about, then this is going to be really beneficial. And that is the phone going on with this. So Groundhog, first and foremost, is absolutely free and open source, which means you can download it and install it directly from the WordPress repository in the plugins area of your site. So if you just go to plugins and add new and you type in Groundhog, it's going to be the first one, top left, and you're just going to want to install that and activate it. And just like that, you're going to be ready to go. So there's no purchase required in order to be able to use Groundhog. It is absolutely free on your end. So you're going to be brought to a welcome screen, which is kind of going to bring you through a guided setup process in order to kind of, and as soon as you actually finish this guided setup process, you are going to be ready to immediately start sending emails and marketing and all of that good stuff. So it's only 6 steps, so we're actually just going to go through it right now. So you click Get Started, and you can put in all of your business information. So I have all of that auto-populated. You just click Save and Continue, go to the next step, and you can configure these settings as you go. If you have a privacy policy on your site, then you can select that. Terms and conditions, same thing. Groundhog is fully GDPR, CAN spam, and CASL compliant, depending on where you are on the globe. If you send email and market to people in Europe, you're going to want to check that. If you send email to market people in Canada, you're going to want to check that. And then other specifies America and essentially all of the other countries with laxer email marketing legislation. So again, save and continue. This is going to ask you how you want to configure your email. You may already have this set up, you may not. I highly encourage you to use the Groundhog sending service if you're going to be sending email and SMS with Groundhog, simply because it adds for a lot of flexibility and it takes a lot of the hassle out of managing your own SMTP solution. And if you have more questions about that, we'll be able to get to that at the end of the guided setup process. Click Save and Continue once you've configured that. Very important, if you're migrating from another platform, such as Infusionsoft, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, or Marketo, or any of those things, you'll be able to completely import your list. So you can just click on Choose File, select a bunch of contacts that you want, click that Import button, and all of those people will be imported immediately into Groundhog. If you use tags or lists in order to manage those people in other softwares, those will be able to be imported as well. So click Save and Continue. There's just some other stuff you can read about that. They're not super important to get into right now. And as soon as you do that, you can essentially write off the guided setup process, and you are ready to immediately start writing emails, building funnels, marketing, and all of that good stuff. One last thing I'll mention before we are done with this process is if you feel like helping us build a better plugin for you to use, we will be very generous in exchange for some information that you can share with us. You can learn about the information, the kind of information that you'll be saying by clicking on this Learn More link. But essentially, if you opt into a statistics tracking service, which essentially we collect information from your site about sending statistics and open rates and stuff like that, no personal data is collected, then in exchange, we will give you 30% off for any extension that you want, or all access pass if you would like to use those in our store. So you can use that WP Builds discount code, which is currently available to you in that offer area, which is the 25%, or if you want to use this, you can get an immediate 30% off as well. And after that, you can complete the setup, and you are brought to a nice welcome screen, which will give you a little bit more information. There's lots of support articles that you'll be able to go and learn more about certain features of Groundhogg, as well as you can see some of the links to some of our popular extensions that might help you extend Groundhogg beyond what's available in the free version, which we'll be covering today. So if there are any questions about that, what we are going to do is just take a look at the chat. Is there anything worth looking at?
No, nothing.
Chat?
Nothing. I think that was all probably fairly straightforward. So press on. We're good.
Press on. So as soon as we have been able to, complete our guided setup process, we are going to go and just add a funnel, because why the heck not? So we want to start collecting email addresses, sending email, marketing our products, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. So on the add funnel screen, which I am currently looking at, there are a series of templates that come pre-installed with the plugin, which you are able to use at your discretion in order to start implementing your funnels for your certain products and services. So we have lots of them to choose from. We have welcome series, hype series, long-term nurture, lead magnet download, feedback request, webinar registration. We have lots of funnels to essentially cover a wide range of topics, or you can just start from scratch if you have a little bit of inspiration and you know what you're going to do. Beyond that, we also have a marketplace, which has absolutely nothing in it at the moment, but we are going to be working on adding a bunch of essentially pre-built templates that are going to be available on the store, which you'll be able to search from here, as well as there is a funnel sharing capability of Groundhogg, which allows you to import and export funnels in between different WordPress websites. So if you have, or if you're an agency and you have a company in a certain niche that's doing very, very well, and you want to sell that information to your other customers, you can essentially just export whatever you have on that website, bring it over to X client website, change the logos, change the names, and essentially just call it a day. So that functionality is also built into the plugin as well.
Cool.
So what we're going to do is let us build a login abandonment. So we've been working with a lot of LMS companies as of recent. A lot of people coming over from the WP EP, which is a popular LMS plugin. A lot of them have been asking, can we send emails, or can we manage our list with Groundhogg while people are learning our courses? And we say absolutely. So we have a really simple one, just this login abandonment template, which is essentially prompts a user to log in if they haven't interacted with the site in a certain number of days. And this is a really good demonstration of kind of the way that Groundhogg automation works. So at the top of this funnel, which you should now be able to see, we have this blue circular rectangular thing, and that is called a benchmark. And it has a little image, and it has a name, and you can clone it, and you can delete it, and you can open and close it, and all of those things. And essentially, it says run when a user logs in, and you can choose a certain criteria. So for this, I'm going to leave it at any time. But if you want to, for example, words. If you want to, for example, provide certain content after a certain number of times a person logs in, then you can actually select that and choose the number of times that a person needs to log in order to be able to collect that reward. So we're just going to leave that at any time, and then any time a user logs in, then this timer is going to run. Now, this timer essentially waits for 7 days. And after 7 days, if someone hasn't logged in a second time, then we can send that person an email that says, hey, listen, we haven't seen you a week. Is everything okay? So every time somebody logs in, this benchmark will complete. And if they are further on in the campaign, then that will just immediately stop and they'll be sucked back up to here. So that we just have this kind of continual loop running. And then anytime it takes longer than 7 days for them to log in, you just send them an email that says, hey, is everything okay? We want to make sure that you're consuming the content that you have so graciously paid us for. So really simple things like that is what marketing automation is about. It's about making sure that your customers experience or have a great customer experience so that they continue to engage with whatever the content that it is providing. So moving on, so we wait 7 days and then we send an email. We can wait another 3 days and we can send an email. And again, anytime they log in, they get sucked out of here and this whole process restarts. And that is a really simple example of how this process works. So we have person does a thing, which is our logged in benchmark. Person does a thing, and then we do things to the person. That's essentially the dichotomy of how it works. Are there any questions about that, Nathan?
No, the only thing I would say is you always go down the page, right? You start at the top, and everything just goes in a train down.
Like a true funnel, it is from top to bottom, and people get filtered through as they go down. And essentially, the way that you want to conceptualize it is as they get further down, you essentially tailor your content to people who are more engaged.
Yep.
In that way. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say the blue is benchmark, which I probably would use the word trigger or something like that, and then the green is like an action. So
correct.
Blue is listening. What are we listening for? And then green is what are we going to do when we've heard it?
Absolutely, that is a great way. So we use benchmarks because we essentially called that because we wanted to be different. To all intents and purposes, because goals, triggers, stuff like that all belongs to essentially our competitors at this point. So nobody was using benchmarks, so that's what we used. But goals, triggers, that terminology applies just as well.
Yep. Just remember, guys, if you've got any questions, stick them in the Q&A section. It's at the top of the chat box. You'll see the word chat and Q&A. If you've got any questions, put them in there. But we got a fairly large amount of people. We've got 30 plus at the minute, so no questions.
Wow.
As yet.
Beautiful. So if you want to add stuff to a funnel, for example, let's say I want to add a third email to this process, because currently it stops right after a second email. All I have to do is I have to kind of scroll to my other benchmarks or my actions that I want to add, and then I just drag in whatever I want to add. And then boom, it'll just configure itself. It'll give it some default options. And I will be able to either choose days, hours, weeks, months, however long I want to wait. And then I can add in another email as well. So super easy stuff right there. It's just all this drag and drop, and you just order it. And then you go up here and you click update. And now I send those emails as well. So
the reordering process, you just grab a handle, do you, and pull something higher up than it was before? It's as simple
absolutely.
as that,
So you just hover over the bar, and you just drag and reorder it as far as you want. And that way you can essentially configure your funnel to your heart's content.
Are there any ways in which you can break the functionality of it by dragging things in an incorrect way, like, I don't know, some sort of continuous loop of waiting or something like that? And does it alert you to any of that?
Yes. So some of the ways is if you have date timers configured in the past. If you're entering a funnel and you ever kind of mess up with some of the configuration, we'll actually provide you a warning to be like, hey, listen, this may not work exactly the way that you think it will. And then there'll be a link to jump to wherever the step is that you may have had a problem. So we thought of that, and we do warn the user in the eventuality that happens.
Okay. I got it. It all makes perfect sense. Very clean and easy to understand. It kind of reminds me of a modern WordPress page builder. Click, drag, drop, type. You're done.
We actually modeled it as much as everybody. If you are a hardcore WordPress user, then you are more than familiar with the controversy surrounding the new page builder, Gutenberg.
Yeah.
But if you use Gutenberg, then you may actually recognize a similar likeness
Yes.
of the
Yeah, where the
format.
buttons are. Yeah. I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah, so there may be a certain likeness to how it looks, but I digress. I thought it looked really nice.
It does look nice. Yeah.
So while we're in here, there's a few other things that we can look at. So we can add, if we have a list of people that we want to manually add to a certain point in our campaign or in our funnel or whatever you want to call it, then you can click this button and select a group of people that you want, and you can select where you want them to start. Nice. So there's lots of that's an easy way in order to be able to quickly add people into a campaign. We have our exporting options over here, so you can click this, and it will give you something called a funnel sharing link. Now, if I copy that and I paste that into my browser here.
We can't see your other tab because of the way you've shared it, but we'll trust that something else is happening. You've shared a tab, not a screen.
It doesn't show you my downloads bar. Oh, no. That's unfortunate. Okay, so can you see this pop-up here?
No.
Oh, you can't see the pop-up either.
No.
Okay, well,
you can share the screen if you really want to go through that.
All right, here, let's do that. Screen sharing. I want to show this to you. All right, so stop screen sharing, and then
we went all screen,
and then boom. All right, so you should be able to see my whole thing now, right?
Give it 3 seconds. Now we got everything. We got all the tabs.
Beautiful. Okay. That was the most professional transition that I've ever done online. All right, so if you click this little thing, you can copy this. And if you plan on sharing your top converting funnel, if you're an agency, you want to give it to all your clients or whatnot, then you can send this link in an email. And as soon as you just paste it into a browser, it'll immediately download into their browser, and they can go and import that into their installation. So that's
really easy. Nice. Wow.
Super easy.
Nice. Yeah.
And then you can also just export it manually by clicking that button as well. You can turn funnels on and off. So obviously, if you're working on a funnel, you don't essentially want people going into it, or you may have done something really, really, really bad and you want to stop everything immediately. So you can turn it active or inactive, and then that will prevent automation from happening. Of course.
Does the clock keep counting if it's inactive, or does the clock stop?
The clock will keep counting if it's inactive, but when the clock finishes, nothing will happen.
Okay.
So essentially, when the clock finishes, it won't be able to complete itself. And when you turn it back to active, then and essentially anything that had been waiting will run immediately.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. And we also have a nice reporting feature. So we can see that we are currently in editing mode. What we can do is we can turn that into reporting mode, and then it will give us reporting features. So for email steps, we can see opens, clicks, and click-through rate percentages. We can see how many people are currently waiting for this step to be complete. We can see how many people have gone through a particular step. And we can also choose the date ranges that we want to be able to see for that. So we have all of the crucial ones: today, yesterday, this week, last 30 days, and all the way through to a custom range where you can select a custom range to be able to view the activity within a funnel.
Okay, so you can basically see the number of people at a particular step, and it looks like that's a link. So at the minute they're all zeros, but if they turned out to be ones or twos or threes, you'd be able to click on them and interact with that.
So what you'd be able to do is, if these were a 1 or a 0, if you clicked this, it would actually bring you to the contacts page and show you the whole list of that people in case you wanted to apply a tag to those people or manage those people in a different way.
Okay.
So that way you can essentially hop through. So I want to see everybody that downloaded, a particular thing in the last 30 days in this funnel. I would just simply go to wherever that download link was. So if they click the download link of this email, I'd be able to click on this and then see a list of those people who downloaded whatever I was giving them.
Okay.
So stuff like that. Okay. So I think that's going to cover it for the funnel builder. That is a very high-level overview. You can do so much with this thing.
Actually, could I ask a few questions of my own?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
if you have
those
a question, then go for
buttons
it.
that you've got on the right-hand side, are you planning to explain them later, or would you mind explaining what they do very briefly now?
Which
All
button?
of the, so for example, we've got, so for example, send email, send SMS, new
Right.
user, role check, all of the buttons in the right-hand side.
All right, let's go through those one by one. So I'll just drag them in. So a new user account. So if you run your WordPress installation in such a way that new customers always have new accounts created, then you can drag this in, and whenever an account is created for a particular role that you want to use, then this will trigger any of the following actions. Similarly, the role changed one, it works exactly the same way, except it's when someone is upgraded or downgraded in a role. So if you have a membership site that uses user roles in order to manage permissions, then that is what you would use in that case. We already went over the logged in one. Groundhogg comes with a built-in web form builder, which looks like this. It is essentially a short code-based builder. You can click on any of these buttons up here in order to be able to add a field, and it just looks exactly like that. You fill in the information, you click insert, and that's super easy. Tag applied. So we use tags to manage lists within Groundhogg. We call them tags, we don't call them lists, but the difference is really in semantics only. And you can select the tags that you want. And essentially when someone is, or this tag is added to somebody, then it will launch any preceding automation. And it also shows you the number of people that have that particular tag in brackets next to it. So if you have multiple tags which have similar names, then you can kind of associate them based with the number of people that have them in order to choose which one that you actually want to use in case you have lots and lots and lots of tags.
I've just got a quick question from Paul. It's about the web form. He's asking, does it, I'll read it exactly. It says, do web forms work like or with FormLift? I'm not familiar with FormLift. Is that
so? He must be coming from our Infusionsoft group, because FormLift is another plugin that I had made in order to cater to Infusionsoft users while I was an Infusionsoft certified partner. To answer the question, no, FormLift is strictly for Infusionsoft and will remain that way. But this form builder, I believe, is actually, if I were to do FormLift over again, I'd probably do it just like this because it's a lot easier to understand. But to answer your question, no, FormLift will not be compatible with Groundhogg in the future. It will remain strictly an Infusionsoft add-on. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does.
Beautiful. Okay, so moving on. So we have the tag applied, and of course the anti-tag applied is tag removed. So whenever a tag is removed, you can also do that. So for example, if you have someone who has a tag that says like, this person should get emails and they're added to a specific sequence. If they have tag removed, then they might want to get an email that says, you've been removed from this list because you owe me money or something like that. We have page visited. So if you want someone to, how should I explain this? So if someone reaches, for example, a landing page or a checkout page and they didn't take action on that, then you can do that. And I can just type in whatever the page title is and it'll auto-populate, and I can choose whatever page I want. You can select partial match or exact match as well in order to further specify the URL. A link click. So this provides you with a special tracking link, which you can put in an email or on a page or anywhere, essentially. And then once they click that link, this benchmark will completed, and you can move them to whatever page you want.
Oh, that's super powerful. I like that.
Right. So as soon as they click a link, and you can, again, paste it anywhere you want, on a page, in a menu, on an email. As soon as they click that, redirect them to this page, and then launch any preceding automation.
Right.
And for users in Canada, because we have a nice thing called CASL, the Canadian Anti-Spam Legislation, there is an email confirmed benchmark as well. So whenever someone clicks a confirmation link, which is a default feature of Groundhogg, then we can launch preceding automation from there as well.
Okay.
So that covers the benchmarks. In the actions, we have lots and lots and lots of stuff. So let's scroll down here to where the actions are. So send email is obviously, we can send an email. Groundhog has an SMS feature, which you can either use Twilio, which we have an extension for currently in the store, or you can use the Groundhog sending service, which is much more cost-effective than Twilio. And we encourage you to use that. I don't have any SMS currently in this installation because it's brand new, but you would essentially be able to select a message that you'd want to send, similarly to the way that you might want to send an email. Admin notifications. So you can send a notification to anybody with a subject line and a particular note, and you can insert replacement codes, which are merge fields essentially, in there in order to personalize the message as well. We can apply a note. There are notes in Groundhog, which are dated. So if you want to apply a note, for example, like this person filled out X form on this date, then you can absolutely do that as well. Apply tag, pretty self-explanatory. Remove tag, again, more or less self-explanatory. We come to a bunch of timers. So we can specify running certain actions on specific dates. And we also have a nice feature where you can actually run those particular times in the contact's time zone.
Oh, nice.
So for example, if I want to send an email to somebody on the March 29th, and I want at 9:30 a.m., but Nathan is all the way over in the UK, I'm going to make sure I want to select this so it runs at 9:30 a.m. his time and not necessarily 9:30 a.m. my time. Of course, if you just want it to run 9:30 a.m. always, then you just unselect that, and there you go.
Yep.
Field timers. So this is a special timer, and you can essentially select a field based on a custom field that you have. I don't have any custom fields at the moment, but if you have a custom field which contains a date, then you'd be able to select that and then run automation based on a date that someone might submit in a web form, for example, or is submitted through the API. This is a little bit more advanced one, so I won't get too far and delve into that. And then we have our typical delay timer, which is wait 3 days and then run. You can either immediately or at a time of day. And again, we have that local time option as well. Okay. If you belong to a sales group or you have a sales division in your business, then there is this apply owner step where you can apply a contact owner to a particular contact. And then if someone logs in with a certain user role, which is added, which is a sales manager, then they will only be able to view their contacts that they have access to. So that is a feature built in for people with sales teams. And you are just able to select any owners that you have. If you select more than one owner in this particular step, because there's an option for multiple, then it will just treat it as a round robin, which is kind of nice. We can create a user. So if you want to create user accounts for people that submit a web form through Groundhog, then you can create a user account. It'll automatically send them their email. It'll use their email address as the username and keep it nice and simple. And there's some other stuff here that's more advanced that allows you to edit people's custom fields as well as send API requests via an HTTP post. But that's more advanced, so I'm not going to get into that right now.
Okay. That's really comprehensive. There's, the sky is the limit, isn't it? Yeah. Couple of questions, if that's all right. Oh, sorry, you carry on.
And well, I was just going to say, and we have a bunch of extensions in our store which add more benchmarks and more actions. So this is a fully customizable or fully extendable API, the way that these things work. So there's lots of ways to add custom ones if you want to connect to particular softwares. For example, if you have an e-commerce site with WooCommerce or Easy Digital Downloads, then there would be a bunch of product associated benchmarks like added to cart or reach the checkout, emptied cart, downloaded a product, so on and so forth. So it gets even more customizable for the perfect user journey that you might want.
Soup to nuts. I've got 3 questions. One from Patricia. There's an acronym here, CASL, C-A-S-L. I'm not familiar with that. It says
that is the Canadian anti-spam legislation.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it says regarding CASL, I was told that this only applies to customers. Is it okay to send unsolicited emails to companies? Is that true? Maybe that's not your area.
So before I answer this, if you have general email marketing questions, I'm fairly well versed in a lot of the concepts regarding legislation and what is okay and what you should and should not do, domain reputation, email reputation. There's lots of stuff that I am pretty savvy with. And you have questions like Patricia's, then I encourage you to ask them before this webinar is over. To answer Patricia's question, it is not recommended to send unsolicited emails to businesses, as that is still considered an offense in Castle. And essentially, the Castle does not discriminate in between personal email addresses and business addresses. So you are just as liable if you are sending unsolicited emails to a business.
Don't do it, Patricia. That's the advice, I think.
It is always best practice to get the email address legitimately. There is something called implied consent. So if someone gives you a business card at a trade show, then you can essentially if they do end up complaining, then you can make a case because that's considered something called implied consent. But if you buy a list from somebody with business email addresses, that is a no-go.
Yeah, David says businesses are made up of people. Just good comment. Right, so Jean-Francois says, since Groundhog is self-hosted, do you need to configure cron for those automations to be automatic at the configured time? Is it handled through a third-party tool, or is it using some sort of WordPress cron?
Yes, so you do need to configure cron, and we can absolutely go through that. We do try to make this process as painless as possible, and we provide a significant amount of documentation on our documentation site on how you will be able to do that. And once you do it, you don't really need to deal with it again, which is kind of nice. So the quick answer is yes. And you can actually choose the interval at which this cron runs. So Groundhog allows you to send allows you to essentially process what's called an event queue, which is a little bit of a more advanced concept. But you essentially process all of the events that have since kind of built up in your WordPress installation, either every 1 minute, every 5 minutes, or every 10 minutes. And then your cron job, either in your cPanel or from an outside service, would be able to run at essentially the same interval in order to keep everything nice and running smoothly. We are working, or we've actually built, but just not published a way to do it through Groundhog yet, but we've already built a service that essentially use our credit service, which is the same credit service we use for both emails and SMS, to kind of tie it all into one simple payment solution that will essentially send those requests to your cron server for you if you are not familiar or do not have the ability to set that up on your own network, essentially.
Oh,
so hopefully
nice.
That answers your question.
So if you don't know what cron is and that freaks you out, do what Adrian said, because that's nice.
We'll create a service that'll just essentially handle it for you.
Yeah.
But that's currently not available, at least publicly facing yet, but we're working on it. Our whole intention essentially is we want to make the whole self-hosting process as painless as possible, because with a lot of, I think the reason more people don't self-host is because it's so painful to set that up, especially with SMTP plugins, and if you're using Mautic, then that's a whole thing. There's a lot of things that you have to kind of take into account. We want to remove as many of those things as possible. So we're creating products that take care of all of that self-hosting headache and kind of putting them all under our credit payment system to make it as painless as possible.
Okay, we're done with the questions. So we've seen the builder, the sort of drag and drop UI. Is there anything else you want to? There are some other questions, but I'll leave those for now.
Okay.
And if you want to move on, if you've got other things you want to show us, fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the biggest thing about Groundhog is it sends emails. It is, to all intents and purposes, it is essentially just a glorified autoresponder. So sending emails is important. So how do those emails look? And I'll preface this with there are lots of solutions that you can pay big bucks for to create beautiful HTML emails that might as well just be a web page. The problem with those is that they don't work in 95% of email clients. Most of the business community uses something called Outlook. And if you're using Outlook desktop, all of that is processed through Word. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word, then essentially that whole beautiful email that you might have written is totally worthless. So the way that we've handled email building in Groundhog is we've made it simple, we've made it crisp, we've focused on content and context rather than imagery and columns and all of those things. So with that preface, let's just jump in and see what it looks like. And this is essentially it. So we have 6 different blocks that you can choose from: text, image, button, a custom HTML block, dividers, and spacers. And all of these look great in any email client, be it your server-side email client, Gmail, Outlook, desktop Outlook. We've tested it in all of them, and essentially we figured out a formula that makes it more or less the same across all different email clients, which is super important. if you're especially marketing towards, if you're a B2B company and they have business email addresses that use these desktop platforms. So let's drag in. So essentially it's super easy. Much like our funnel builder, it's just drag and drop, and you just essentially just order it the way that you want. So I can order this above this or order this above this. I can drag the button up, just click on it to edit it. All of the options for that block will show up in the left-hand pan here. So I want to add a link to a page. I can just, again, type in something, and then it'll automatically populate the page for me. I can choose the colors for my button, how big I want the font size of the button be, the font type of the button. There's lots of stuff that I can edit. This is a full, what you see is what you get, text editor as well here. You put your subject line up here at the top. Under that, you can put some pre-header text. And I can, if you're not familiar with what pre-header text is, I can show you what that looks like in a second. You can select over here on the right who the email is coming from. So currently I just have it set to me because I created the email in the first place. But if you want it to come from different people in your organization, essentially anybody who is an administrator, a marketer, or a sales manager within Groundhogg will show up in this list to be able to send email. You can enable this to send a test email to yourself just by clicking that. You can also switch to in between this visual view and an HTML view. So if you want to tweak some stuff just in regular HTML, if you know how to do that, then you can toggle this button to switch in between an HTML and email editor view. And then below all of this stuff that you see here, we have a list of all of the replacement codes. So we have first name, last name, username, email, phone number, phone extension, address, company name, job title, and just lots of stuff. And down here at the bottom, we have a Groundhog Day quote from the movie. You may never need to use that, but it is there.
You got bored one day, didn't you?
We took the best quotes out of it. Is my favorite movie, and we took the best quotes. And it is the namesake of the software, by the way. The movie is the namesake of the software. So we took all of the best quotes out of that movie. And if you want to insert a random quote into your emails, just because, then it's there. Perfectly, if you want to send emails out on Groundhog Day, which I did, then that is the perfect replacement code to use.
Can you, sorry, he said, trying to stifle his laughter at that last comment. Can you create fields of your own? Are you able to generate some?
So yes, you can. That is a premium extension though. So it's called custom replacement codes. And essentially you just enter the name of whatever the replacement code is, and you can enter the data that you would want to be able to. But this is also an open API, so it's actually fairly simple to add replacement codes with if you know a little bit of PHP, and you can add those customized as well. If you're not a developer, then you can use that relatively inexpensive extension to do exactly the same thing. Okay, thank you. A lot of the extensions also that we sell, for example, the e-commerce ones, also add their own replacement codes, particularly for auto-generating discount codes, which is a pain if you use stuff like Shopify. It's almost impossible to auto-generate discount codes, which I feel like should be pretty easy. But so you can essentially auto-generate discount codes with the replacement codes and set the auto-expiry dates and specific product requirements and all of those stuff right within just a short replacement code. Stick that in an email, and boom, there's your automatic 10% one-time use only, just for you, unique discount code. So you can use not just the Groundhog ones, you can use anything that's valid within the WordPress installation. You can stick them all in your email. Essentially, yeah. Yeah, okay, great. So super neat stuff there. And that basically covers it. So it's so simple. We kept it that way because A, it's easy to use, and B, it works among all of the email clients with relative impunity. The nice thing is, if you like a particular email and you want to keep reusing that email over and over again, either because it has your logo in it or because it has a certain greeting or it's translated into your language, because currently all of the email templates are in English, then what you can do is you can click Save as Template up at the top of the screen here, click Update, and then when you go to add a new email, there will be it'll automatically bring you to the tab called My Templates, and then you will be able to use that email as a template forever and ever and ever. Got it. And then you can just click Writing to duplicate that email, or you can go and edit the template, and it'll bring you right back to here. That's great. So the idea then is that the name we gave that email is how we find it
when we're in the funnel builder, I'm going to call it?
Yes, so the subject line is considered the name of the email. So if I'm in my funnel builder, and now I have to scroll all the way down to find an email. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. So it will just show me the list, and I can start typing. So it's there we go. It's been a while. We miss you. And then that will be able to find the email that is using the subject line.
Cool.
Recent emails. So if you just created an email, then those will always show at the top of the list to make it easy.
I'm just going to have to nip out the room for 2 minutes, if that's all right. My son has returned somewhat unexpectedly from school. I'm going to go and let him in the front door. Sorry about that.
Go for it. I will be able to hold the reins momentarily.
I'm sure you can. I'll be about a minute.
I will waste time by explaining the send email action a little bit more. So you can edit these emails, by the way. You don't have to go and leave the funnel editor to edit your emails. You can do all of that right within the funnel editor. So if you click this blue button that says edit email, that will just open up a pop-up where you can edit that email directly without ever leaving the page. And you have all the same options here. So let's just go ahead and close that. And you can also create new emails from here as well. So if I click that create new button, or that new email button as well, I can essentially just do the exact same thing here and create emails that way. Although that gave me an error for some reason. This is a development site, so that's why. There we go. Beautiful. So just super stuff. Welcome back. I was just explaining that you never leave the funnel builder when creating emails as well. So you can do all of that within the funnel builder, just within a nice little pop-up that kind of shows up here to make that user experience real easy.
Okie doke. Are you in the middle of saying something, or shall I ask a few questions at this point?
Ask a few questions. Ask away.
Okay, so Paul Brooks says, oh, it's just dropped down. It says, you might be getting to this later, but how are contacts managed, as in WP users?
We will get to that momentarily.
Okay.
I think that's where I'm going to go next, actually. So hold that thought, Paul. We will get to that.
Okay. The next one from Rob is, if I don't know all this stuff, does the all access membership cover the help to make this very easy for neophytes like me?
Absolutely, Rob. Just short of implementing everything for you, we will support your journey and answering the questions that you might have. We do our best to make it as painless as possible. We also have extensive documentation that you can read with pictures and videos and stuff as well. Rob is familiar with Paul, and Paul has recorded lots of tutorials about going through this process as well. So everything short of implementing it for you, yes, Rob, that we will support you.
Okay, Paul Brooks is speaking about the funnel builder. He says, in the funnel builder, how do we manage multiple inputs? For example, different landing pages from different sources that still connect to the same funnel process. So I suppose he's talking about multiple things all at once.
Yeah, so either you use the same, so either use the same form on all of those different pages. So if I just go and open up my my funnel here, so either use the same form, which is just a shortcode. You can use the same form among all of those different landing pages, and then they will all go in the same form, or they will all go into the same funnel. Or if you want different forms or different inputs for those forms on different pages, then you can just stack them. So you can have 3 forms at the beginning of a funnel, just stacked like this, and then if any of those is completed, then they will just move on and go to the next action. So that's treated as an OR relationship. So this form, or this form, or this form, then do the following things if you just decide to stack them.
Do you find it simpler in your experience then to build multiple small, again, I'm going to use the word funnels, as opposed to a giant funnel on one page which tries to accomplish everything? Because
I would just build out small funnels, and I would do that simply because it's so easy to duplicate them.
Yeah.
Because all you got to do is, well, actually, there's just a quick way to do it. You could just click duplicate.
Right.
Or not there, because that didn't work.
That's always the case.
That's always the case. But you can just export it and then import it as well if you want to do that. So it's just super easy to duplicate them. So
I think a lot of us are sort of familiar with platforms where you can sort of have things branching off in different directions, and you've taken a different approach with the UI, haven't you? So you just create multiple instances of it and hook them up in those ways, and that should work.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Patricia, the $1 million question says, does Groundhog eliminate the need for ClickFunnels?
I used ClickFunnels for quite some time. We were registered for about a year. Bloody expensive that stuff is.
Yeah.
It was $3.99 US per month. I think I was paying. Yeah. It might be less than that now, but it was expensive and not necessarily, as far as the email automation goes, worth the money, in my personal opinion. Of course, your experience may differ. As far as a page builder goes, it was very robust and it had a lot of functionality that was very conducive to creating paged funnels. However, I believe if you use some of the WordPress plugins that are now available, such as Thrive or Elementor, you essentially get more or less the same level of page builder capability.
Yeah.
Without the price. For example, Elementor is like a $67 a year fee. Thrive Architect is a one-time fee. So with that in mind, I believe if you just combined page builders for WordPress such as that, and then use Groundhog to manage your email marketing and list management and things like that, then I think you could absolutely totally replace ClickFunnels.
Yeah, the nice thing about getting skilled with something like Elementor or Thrive Architect or Beaver Builder is you've got a reusable skill as well. You've become good at building web pages, not just landing pages through a SaaS app. And you can sell that service as well, if you get good at that. So yeah,
absolutely.
Why not? Yeah. Okay. We have a question from Barna. It's all about a service called SendOwl, which I'm not familiar with. It says, any plans to, or is it already possible to integrate with SendOwl?
I can't say that I'm fairly familiar with SendOwl as well. I've received requests to integrate with some other WordPress-based email marketing plugins. The only reason I'm going to say that's not a priority of ours is simply because of the way that Groundhog is built is not necessarily conducive to sending those emails out to particular people. Again, our focus was really on simplification and unification of particular services. And as a competitor, it's not really our priority to be able to manage those people. If you already have those emails built out in SendOwl and you are absolutely keen on sticking with that service, then I'd recommend that you stick with that service if you've already got set out. My particular thing is if it ain't broke, don't fix it, unless it's kind of like killing you in terms of cost or it's not working or it's not reliable, then I'd suggest just switching over entirely. Okay. But I'm not ruling anything out. One of the biggest reasons that we exist today is because of the awesome user feedback that we've always received and the feature requests and the plugin requests and all of those things. So why don't you send me an email afterwards? It's info@groundhog.io and describe exactly why it is you might want that and why it would be beneficial. And then I will send that to our development team and they will have a look and they will kind of make the final call on whether this would be worthwhile. Usually if multiple people request the same thing, then we'll end up building it. For example, recently, several people requested a Twilio, which is actually a direct attack on our own revenue because we offer the SMS service and people pay us for that service. But so many people requested that, and we want to or open sourceness and integrated. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but essentially providing a unified experience is really important to us. So we ended up just building a Twilio extension, even though that's technically a direct attack on our own revenue. Okay. So nothing is out of the question. So send me an email, describe your use case, and we'll reply it there. I
know Barna. Barna is writing the email as we speak, I'm sure. That's it for the question. Well, there isn't. There's this one still from Paul. So, but we'll keep that. That was all about the WP users.
We're already at 53 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to quickly cover in quick succession the rest of the plugin. And we'll leave any last minute questions right to the very end so we can kind of get through the rest of it. Is that okay?
Before you do that, though, I'm going to click this button. I love this button. Look, Look, here it comes. Oh yes, look at that. There you go. If already you're interested, go click that button and you'll get 25% off if you use the offer code WP Builds. Sorry, Adrian, carry on.
Beautiful. So Paul, was it? Paul was asking about user management and how that works.
Brooks, yeah.
Paul Brooks. So essentially, we have a contacts database. So not all contacts are users. All users can be contacts, but essentially they're separated. So no contacts will essentially have access to your site. And there's lots of specific things that you can do with contacts that you would be able to do with WordPress user accounts. For example, you are able here to maintain opt-in statuses. I only have one contact in here. So what I'm going to do quickly is let's just import a bunch of contacts so we can see some nice data here. Let's go do downloads, and then there should be some mock data here. There we go. Boom. When you're importing, you can choose a tag that you want to import. So I'm just going to add a new tag here called big list, and you can just add tags on the fly like that, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
I'm just going to go ahead and import contacts. It's going to give me this nice loading bar. It'll import, and soon when that process is completed, we'll be able to go and look at a nice big list of over 1,000 contacts, which is kind of nice.
Oh, wow, that's going fast.
So there we go. We now have 1,000 contacts ready to go, and we can see all of them here with some test data. So I'm going to go ahead and open this contact. If they have a WordPress Gravatar account, if you're in the WordPress industry like me, then that image will show up here. We got their first name and last name. You can create a user account for them if they don't already have one, or you can link an existing one if they just didn't get linked for some reason. You can manage their opt-in status below here. So you can mark them as unsubscribed if they sent you a really nasty email and you don't want that person on your list anymore. Or you can manually confirm their email address if you're testing in its view, for example. Or if you're on the phone and you get explicit consent. Lots of other stuff here. So down here, we have geolocation data. So this person was provided to us with an IP address. And from that, we were able to extrapolate their location. Based on that IP address. So we can see that they are in America, Los Angeles time zone, in the city of San Mateo, in California, in the United States. And that's what allows us to do that send in local time zone setting. So you can do that. You can also see this person's local time. So we can also see that it's 7:55 a.m. currently. So you're not calling that person at 3 a.m. as I have done in the past and then have my ear chewed out for 30 minutes from a very disgruntled person. So that's essentially the general information that you have to work with. Here we have some custom info. So their gender is female, but we can also add just a bunch of custom fields that we want. I can input this person's age, for example, and I can put they're 28, they're 58 or something. And then as soon as I update that, then what it'll do, update, there we go. It'll convert that to a friendly key, and you can actually copy this and insert this into an email as a replacement code as well. So that's how custom fields work. There is no limit to the amount of custom fields that you can have in Groundhogg, but it's just whatever the replacement code you want, and then the name of that or the actual value of that, and then you can replace that in any meal.
Okay.
We have this segmentation tab. Yeah, sorry, were you about to say something?
No. Carry on.
Great. Where again you can select the owner for this person. You can see the source page, so what page they signed up on, where they came from, any tags that they have. You can add notes to this person and just add a note like that. You can upload files to a contact. So if you have, if you collect resumes, for example, then you can add their resume. You can also collect files in web forms, and any files that they upload will show up here. We have actions, so we can send email notifications, SMS notifications. We can add this person to a funnel directly from here, or we can submit an internal form. And an internal form is essentially just a web form, but you can submit it in the admin area. The web forms are used for both purposes. So if you have an administrative person and people are signing up over the phone, then they'd be able to do that here as well.
Oh, nice.
And then we can do all of the activity that is associated with this person. So any funnels that they've been into, any email activity. So if they've opened an email, what link they clicked on in an email, and emails that they've seen, so on and so forth. So all of that is available within the contact record. So it's a lot more versatile than just the regular WordPress user system.
This is breathtaking, Adrian. There's an awful lot of work gone in here.
We've done a significant amount of work.
Yeah.
And it is a continual work in progress, as I was talking to you ahead of the show. All of this is still a work in progress, and we are focusing on making it even more usable and quashing bugs and releasing new feature updates to make this literally the most painless CRM experience that you've ever had.
Whilst we're here, I think it would be good. We've got a couple of minutes. If everybody's prepared to hang on the line for a moment, I've got 4 more questions. But equally, I think it would be nice to see the paid for add-ons as well, if that's possible.
Absolutely. So stick around if you're interested in that, and that is what we'll get to in a moment. And since we are kind of at the hour mark and people may be tired of listening to my voice, what I will say is if you have any other questions, we make ourselves extremely accessible. If you go to the Contact Us page on www.groundhogg.io, there's a contact form, there's a phone number, there's my email address. We also have a Facebook page where we have a less than 1 hour response time if you're in between 9 and 5 a.m. EST. And all of that are methods that you can communicate with either me or another team member in order to get your questions answered. So if you will be finding yourself leaving before we go into the next section, if you ever have any questions, we make ourselves extremely accessible. Support is our #1 priority.
You'll get a video. If you do drop out, you'll get a video within a few hours with the whole thing. So don't worry.
Beautiful. All right, so let's talk about some of those extensions that we have. So we have a couple kinds of extensions. We have things which allow us to integrate with other plugins and other services, and then we have just things that are called add-ons, which add on functionality to the base Groundhogg, which don't necessarily require any other platform. So let's just go ahead and let's look at all of them. So I mentioned Twilio earlier. So if you want to send all of your SMS via your Twilio account, then you can absolutely do that and use another form or service for your emails. There is a popular LMS integration. So if you like to, or if you want to build out your course, for example, if you have a pottery course and you want to host that course on WordPress, then you can use WPEP in order to build out that course. And anytime someone watches a lesson or learns anything, then you can apply a tag, and essentially that tag will be used within the funnel builder to launch automation. You had asked about if you could add your own replacement codes, and that's exactly what this does. Great. You can define your own replacement codes. We want to eliminate as many software as a service solutions as possible by kind of making Groundhogg the all-in-one marketing experience or sales and marketing experience within WordPress. And for that, we have the following 2 extensions. So if you take bookings online, either at the moment via Schedule Once or Calendly or Appointment Core or any of those software as a service appointment booking softwares, then we have one that you can also use, which is just self-hosted in WordPress that also integrates to stuff like Google Calendar to manage all of your appointments. And that's exactly what this does, the booking calendar.
Wow, that's cool. It's really left field. That's interesting.
So eliminating the stuff like, again, Calendly or Appointment Core or Schedule Once or anything like that. Integrates with Google Calendar. You can select time slots and availability days and decide which calendars to use for your availability. You can have different calendars for different users and all of that stuff. It's really well thought out, I think. So that is available. We have the sales pipeline. So if you are familiar with a software as a service called Pipedrive, it's essentially a drag and drop UI that allows you to drag essentially a boxed deal from one column to the next column to the next column to the next column until they're either marked as won or lost. And then there's reporting associated with that. So that's what Sales Pipeline Extension does. It essentially provides that whole Pipedrive experience, but again, directly within Groundhogg, and provides you all of the associated reports and stuff for that. Following that, we have a bunch of integrations. So we have Zapier. We have all of the major WordPress form plugins, every single one. We have WP Forms, Ninja Forms, Formidable Forms, Gravity Forms, Forminator. We really spent a lot of time making sure that those were available. And finally, we have a couple down here. So we have the form styling extension. So if you plan on just using the built-in Groundhogg form builder, which I recommend because it works pretty well, then you can download this extension to essentially provide you with some styling capabilities. Otherwise, the plugin or Groundhogg will just use whatever theme CSS you have at the moment. This will provide an entire UI for you to be able to select colors and widths and border types and all of that stuff within there.
Cool.
We have a social proof plugin. So if you, and you actually may have seen this on our homepage, if I come over here in the bottom left-hand corner here, it will say
yes,
momentarily, Rob from Toronto. Hey, Rob, that's probably you on the call. Rob from Toronto switched to Groundhogg 4 minutes ago. And that's what this does. So it provides geolocation data as well as the person's first name along with a custom message that you want to define in order to increase opt-in rates on a landing page or on a homepage or whatever. An email countdown timer. So if you're in this call because you received an email from us with a countdown timer in it, then that's what this does. So it allows you to add a countdown timer to a specific date time within your emails, all using just your WordPress account. And we have Contact Form 7 Gravity Forms. We have a contracts extension. And this allows, Nathan, you actually recently signed a contract for a referral agreement on our website.
Yeah, you just get your mouse or your finger and just scribble in the box.
Yeah, so you can define some parameters for a contract. You can merge in contact details like a first name, last name, phone number, and email address in order to specify who the contract is for. And then they just kind of scribble in their name and they click sign, and then it gives them, reloads the page and allows you to download the PDF version of that contract. And as well, that contract is then uploaded to the contact record in Groundhogg with a new tab in the contact editor or the contact record that shows contracts, and you can download and view those there as well.
Nice.
And then if you're an e-commerce person, then we have the two major e-commerce plugins for WordPress, WooCommerce and Easy Digital Downloads, which adds automation stuff to the funnel builder that allows you to specify if someone purchases a product, adds a cart to product, empties their cart. You can auto-generate discount codes, which I had mentioned earlier, and stuff like that. So all good stuff there as well. That was a mouthful.
It's breathtaking. Now, however, I noticed that on the previous page, there was one lurking in the bottom right-hand corner that you never mentioned. It was called
the All Access.
Yes. What's that little fella?
So if you want all of those, then you can buy them all for a low one-time or low yearly fee. I shouldn't say one time.
Okay.
But you can buy them for a yearly fee. And essentially that allows you to license all of them with a single license key, and you get access to all of the extensions without having to pay for them separately and manage different licenses and all of that fun stuff. And we have many levels for you to choose from. So if you are just using them for yourself, then you just get yourself a personal license for a yearly fee of $2.99. In contrast, if you were to go buy something like ClickFunnels, that'd be $2.99 a month.
A month. Yeah.
If you are a freelancer and you want to use this for your clients, then you can get this one, which allows up for 10 WordPress installations, again, 25, and then up to 100 if you manage multiple, if you're an agency type and you want to provide this to all of your clients, then you can register for this 1 yearly fee and use them for all your people.
Do the paid for plugins that you've been showing us up until now, do they have different prices, or are they all kind of?
Yes, they do. Yeah. They do.
Okay.
They have their pricing is based upon the added value that they might provide.
Okay.
So essentially, how much time we can save you is essentially the cost of the extension. Although that being said, they are essentially significantly lower per year than the monthly cost for their related software as a service products.
Yes.
So that being said, they are still relatively inexpensive compared to their software as a service counterparts.
So maybe the advice is if there's if you're going to cherry pick and go a la carte, then check it out. See if you can fill your basket up and look at the pricing. And at some point, there's going to be a tipping point where the all access pass might end up being the sensible thing.
Essentially, if you're looking at a form integration, an e-commerce integration, and something like the sales pipeline, then you're already better off with an all-access pass.
Right. Okay.
If you're just doing a la carte, like the really small add-ons like the form styling and the customer placement codes, then that stuff a la carte would be significantly less expensive. But as soon as you kind of get into the bigger, the ones that took a lot more time to build, then it becomes immediately worth it to just go straight for the all access pass.
And I'm just going to click that button once more and make that thing come in, just because why not? So there you go. You can get 25% off all that stuff if you use the offer code WP Builds. That would be great. Now, fabulous product. Are you all right still, Adrian, for a couple of questions? Well, actually,
absolutely.
I'll say a couple of questions.
Bring it on.
Boatload of them now. Right, first one. Thank you, Adrian and Nathan. Super valuable learning experience. He's got a dash now. Okay, thanks, Patricia. I'm glad that you got something out of that. That's great.
Thank you, Patricia.
Right, let's take them in order. Number one from Roger. Can you bulk edit contacts or pull up contacts with a specific tag? So basically, can you get them all at once?
Yes. So if you want to view a contact or a list of contacts, then you can go to the tags page where all of these tags are. And then click that big number there, and that will show you the list of those contacts here.
Okay. And can you perform actions upon them, like change their tag all in one lump for some reason, if you wanted to change the tag? Or
the process to do that is not self-explanatory, but essentially what you can do is you can export those 1,000 contacts to a CSV, perform the necessary modifications that you want there, and then re-import them.
Okay, going to take a couple of minutes more, but possible, totally doable. Okay, Mario says, any plans to support Caldera Forms, popular Forms plugin?
I've never heard of Caldera Forms, but if that's one that we've missed, then absolutely we will add that. We've basically nailed down the form integrations down to a science where it's mostly just duplicatable at this point. So it's just a question of changing some of the actions and uploading it to the store. So absolutely, if you want to send me an email, I can make sure that gets done as well within relatively short order.
That was actually also asked by Guy, so hopefully we've captured both of you with that exact same question. David wants to know a little bit about your team. He wants to know how many people are on your team.
All right, so just looking around the office here, I have Drumit, who is one of my developers, who is currently busy working away on documentation. I operate out of an agency office along with the family business, and they also help support in large part this project with a lot of the website maintenance and the marketing and things like that. So we have Paul, Nancy, Gary, and Michael on the team as well, helping with a lot of the management, while Drumit, I, and some developers that we have on retainer, other parts in the world, develop the product.
Okay, so there's more than you. I think
there's a lot more than me. It's not just me. There's an entire support system.
I've been watching this product since about December, something like that, and you've done a lot. It's pretty darn impressive, actually. So commendation to you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Paul Brooks wants to know, can you view which pages they have viewed?
So no, but the reason for that is because this is a self-hosted platform. If we were to capture every single page that a contact viewed, then that would take up a significant amount of space in the database. It would be the alternative that I would suggest is if you want to specify, like, for example, in the automation, if they visit a page, then you want to do a certain series of actions because you want to see if they submitted a certain page. Then, for example, if they viewed X page, then apply X tag, and that way you'd be able to see which people viewed which pages. But the reason we don't track every single page visit is simply because of space.
Yeah, okay. The database gets full very quickly. Okay, Paul Kress this time says, sorry I came in late. I'm not sure if this was asked or not, but is it recommended to use this on a standalone WP instance or as a part of your existing site? That's a good question.
So you can use it on a standalone WordPress site. It is possible certain things will not work as part of a standalone site. It is designed to be part of your production site. For example, on Groundhogg.io, we use it as part of our full production site. And it's just a lot easier that way. However, it is possible to use it on a standalone site. For example, if you will just want like groundhog.mysite.com and host it there, then that is doable.
Yeah, I guess you lose some of the features might go out the window if you.
For example, like because if you wanted to use certain things like the e-commerce extensions, then there is no direct integration in between your e-commerce tool, which will be on your production site, and on the CRM side. So you will lose those things. So it's recommended to be on your production site, but it is doable. You just will have to sacrifice some of those things.
I can see a use case for it on a standalone installation if it was literally emails and you just wanted to track the throughput of the emails. But yeah,
if you just wanted to collect name and email addresses and that was essentially it, and just send your broadcasts, then that would be totally doable. For more complex stuff and connecting it to your e-commerce site, then it would need to be on your production site.
Okay, thank you. Sheila says, how can you make sure a contact has been deleted? Is there a list of deleted contacts? That seems a bit...
Well, once a contact is deleted, it is deleted.
It's gone. Literally
it's gone. So if I delete this contact and I click delete permanently, that contact is now unrecoverable.
Right. Well, because often in WordPress, you find that things that have been deleted have just been moved to a sort of bin area, and then you can you can pull them back out again. But that means gone, as in it's dropped from the table.
This means gone. And we do that simply, again, it's all about space management. When you're running a CRM and you're collecting as much data as we collect, then it becomes a space management issue. We want to make sure that Groundhogg remains lightweight and is not a significant tax on your server bill. Because we're promising big savings, but we don't want you to essentially have to go up a tier in hosting just because you're running Groundhogg.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of space management, and that means that there's no storing of deleted contacts. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Okay. Last question is from Rob Rowland. I think I can answer this myself, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It says, any issues using Mac ecosystem? I presume you mean Mac OS?
Well, this is a browser-based platform, so there should be no issues using Mac OS.
Yeah, it should work with whatever you're going to use. Right, hold on. I think we just got another one. Yeah, works great on my Mac, says David. That's it. We've got through them all. We've done it. We've succeeded.
Only 50 minutes over time.
Yay. And we've still got a whole bunch of people on the call, so thank you very much for staying. If you... like I said, if you want to make use of this, when you close down this webinar, you'll actually be taken to the WP Builds deals page. And right in the middle at the front, on top of that page, is the Groundhogg code. You've seen it. It works. It's dead cool. It's the beginning. It's new. So it's got a lot. It's got, you'll be getting in right at the beginning on something which looks like it's got a very bright future. Thank you, Adrian, for coming on the call.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a great time, and I hope I got to everybody's questions and answered them with relative clearness. I want to thank everybody that came on the call today for taking the hour and 15 minutes out of their day to spend it with us. It means a lot to me. Before we all leave and we dare depart, remember, again, there's so many ways to get in contact with me personally, as well as anybody on our team. And I encourage you to reach out if you have questions or need support. We are always available in order to make sure that you get the answers that you need to succeed.
Great stuff. I'm going to stop the recording.